I mean, now after running 100 miles, I think that anything is possible for people with one kidney. There's nothing that is off limits for me. This is where I belong. I was born to do this. I don't want to die, but I don't fear it. I believe God has a plan for me. Now I just want to inspire others and build that community of people that are chasing their own greatness.
Selflessness is more than an act. It's a way of life. And today we are privileged to explore the inspiring journey of Mannie Zubia, an Army veteran whose life has been defined by his dedication to serving others. From his time in the military to the incredible decision to donate a kidney to his mother, Mannie's path is one of profound sacrifice and unwavering commitment. After his surgery, Mannie embarked on a fitness journey that led him to the world of ultra running, culminating in his recent completion of the grueling Leadville 100 race. His story is not only one of personal transformation, but also a testament to the power of selflessness and perseverance. Mannie's experiences from serving his country to pushing his physical and mental limits offer valuable insights into what it truly means to live a life of service and resilience. Mannie, thank you so much for joining us here on the 1 Mile, 1 Veteran podcast.
Thank you so much, brother, for having me, man.
Absolutely. And as our listeners begin tracking their 1 mile walk with the Strava app, I just need to say that you just completed one of my life's bucket list things of running 100-mile races, culminating in 3 completed races since 2023, including the Leadville 100, which I just mentioned. What has that experience been like for you?
Oh, man, it's been something I never thought I would be a part of for sure. When I first heard about 100-mile races, I just thought they were just something like only a few people have done, like David Goggins and, just people of that nature, like just crazy individuals that I could never do that. So, man, it just one day, you're just thinking in your head of like, man, I should run a marathon. And from there, you see what's possible for yourself. And you're like, you know what, if I could do a marathon, like, what's next? What else could I do? And then I just started seeing individuals around me that were like the same as me. They were fathers. They were, just people that had regular jobs, and they were completing these 100-mile races. And so I was like, man, if they could do it, like I could do it. I feel like I have the mental strength to push myself to those limits. And it's just a matter of me committing to that goal and then just training for it. And training months on months and being consistent. And now, man, there's nothing that is off limits for me.
That's incredible, because doing hard things, you had kind of just mentioned, requires a lot of consistency, because like to sit there and just do something hard is, like you mentioned, running 100 miles seems like something that's not achievable. But by building up that consistency, it becomes something that becomes a manageable goal. But I will also say, like, doing hard things is nothing new for you, because joining the military is one of those things that a lot of people look at and go, and that's an incredibly difficult decision to make. You leave your home of record, you go on to live a life away from your family, as well as one that is of sacrifice and service. You don't know what environment is going to show up. You don't know what the training is going to be like, but we know it's going to be hard, at least, when we're first joining. What inspired you to join the Army in the first place?
Yeah, so for me, that's when I realized I was different, like, than my friends. Because, we were all graduated high school and everyone was like trying to stay in their hometown and just get a job or just go to like community college. And for me, I was like, man, I need to like go see the world. I need to like get out of here. Like I need to like just do something different from everybody else. So my first thought of the military was I wanted to go to the Navy. So I'm like Googling, how to get into the Navy, and there's a recruiter like in the next city by me. So like I just send them a message like I'm interested in info, and I get a call like the next day from a recruiter, and he's like, "Hey man, come on in, like we'd love to talk to you." And it was right next to the mall where I was at. And I go in and I'm like, "Yeah, like what do I got to do? What do I need?" And he's letting me know the whole process. and I ended up taking like the ASVAB and all that, and I failed it 3 times to get into the Navy. No, so I had no more chances unless I wanted to wait another like 6 months or something. So the Navy recruiter just took me next door to the Army, and he's like, "Hey man, like, do you want to come here?" And I'm like, sure, like, why not? Like, I mean, I want to get out of here. I already quit my job. Like, I was working as a courtesy clerk at like a grocery store, and I quit my job because like, I'm going to the military. Like, I don't know, I'm just going. So yeah, the Army. I was barely made the score high enough to like get 4 jobs, and ended up being like infantry, a tanker, construction, and like I think it was like a cook. So for me, like the coolest one sounded like infantry. So I'm like, all right, let me go in, and man, like I think like 2 months later, I was already in basic training.
Yeah, that's a lot of persistence and perseverance to stick with that goal to join the military. It seemed like nothing was really going to stop you from working to get to be a part of the military community.
Yeah, no, I knew I was gonna leave. Either like if it was gonna be the Marines, Navy, Army, whoever would take me, pretty much. And then if it would have, if I was gonna have to like study more, I guess I got to study. Like I got the book for ASVAB for Dummies, and I was reading it, and I'm just not a school, studying. I'll admit that I'm lazy at that point of like trying to learn something that I don't care about. But yeah, man, I ended up, still barely making it for the Army. So I mean, I think it was the best decision for me too, and like it was just God leading me to what's destined for me.
Mm. After achieving something so hard to just get in, and I know that the majority of my deployments were spent around infantry men and women who are some of the most dedicated people that I've ever known. What was your time in service like?
Yeah, so I went to Fort Benning, Georgia. That was for basic. That was already in 2009, 2009, and so it was still kind of like not like it is now. Like, it was still a little rough. Like, drill sergeants would still be kind of, getting a little physical with the with the privates, and there was a couple of incidents where I was like, whoa. People getting out of line, and they get checked by a drill sergeant. So I mean, I came from from not saying I came from a bad place, but I learned how to be tough and rough with defending myself and standing up for myself. So I felt like I was in a good place. Um, but after I graduated basic, I get to my unit in Fort Lewis, Washington, and they say, "Hey, pack up. We're going to Afghanistan. Like, you got a month." So after me graduating basic, and I get to my unit, and they have all been together for like 3 years, with no deployment. So they were all like tight, and I'm coming in as a new private. I'm getting the bad end of the stick, and I get all the freaking bad things I have to do, and all the I have to volunteer for everything because I'm just going to get picked either way. So that was just like the rough part of just being a private and being the new guy and going to Afghanistan with all these guys that had been together. So I was kind of like kept to myself, like kind of scared. Like I was nervous. I was like, man, like this is where I'm going to die. Like I envisioned myself already being killed. Like I was like, I'm not gonna make it back. So what can I do? Like I've already volunteered for this. I signed up for this. There's no backing out. Like I can't go home because I'm scared. I was just like, whoa, this is where it ends. So I ended up going there for a year, and there was a lot of, during that year, man, we saw a lot of combat. A lot of IEDs, some firefights, but mostly IEDs was like the main thing that was going on out there. But yeah, that was one of the hardest years of my life, just from you know being uncomfortable for the whole year. Where even when you're hanging out and you're chilling, you're watching a movie, you're still on edge because like something can happen. You have to get ready and you have to go fight. So that was most of the most uncomfortable year of my life. And I was 19 years old. Like I think about it now, like at 19, like we're kids.
Yeah.
We think we know everything, but we don't know anything. And a lot of it was ego driven. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm the tough guy. I'm the world owes me something. I I did this, so I deserve this. And it was just a horrible way of thinking. But man, I survived, and I come home, and I just, like, I was motivated. Like, after I left, like, I wanted to go to Ranger School. I wanted to do Special Forces. I wanted to do, everything. I wanted to do all the schools, and I just want to be like, a bad dude. But then I ended up meeting a girl, and I ended up like getting married at a young age, and I was in the. And after that, I just wanted to get out of the Army. So I had like a year left of being at Fort Lewis, and I was just like, I'm getting out. I'm getting out. And they had orders to go back to Afghanistan in 2012, and they were like, hey, like, you want to go back, we will extend you, you'll get a promotion, you'll get a bonus. And I was like, nah, man, like, I'm done, like, I'm getting out. And now, like, after that, I wish I would have stayed in and went back because of how rough I had it when I got out. And I'll end it there on a note. And that was kind of like how it was in my experience in the military.
No, I appreciate you sharing that. When you were telling the story about showing up to your unit and then being told you're deploying to Afghanistan, I mean, that that was my story. I showed up on September 30th and I was in Afghanistan on November 6th. And, when you're walking into the space as a 19-year-old, 20-year-old person to a group of people that have been training together, living together for years on end, it's really easy to feel like the outsider because there's certain bonds that aren't built, but then also a certain amount of trust that they have to inherently have in you because you're one of the guns on the battlefield. And for me, being a doc, like, they also have to trust me with not only their protection, but also their healing should something happen. But it feels incredibly isolating knowing when you're coming in and you're essentially replacing somebody that had then since transferred out of the unit that they already had a bond with. And I remember a lot of that first deployment felt very alone because I couldn't tell people how I was feeling. It wasn't necessarily the fear, but I was very uncertain in my skills as a corpsman. I was constantly, running through the books and hoping that when the time got called up, I'd be able to act. So how do you think, being uncomfortable in that situation and coming out of the other side helped shape who you are?
I think I handle stress really well. I'm able to stay really calm and just collective and analyze situations because I'm a great observer. Like, that's how I was. I was just really observant and just looking at everything around me because I was the guy that didn't say anything to anybody. I didn't have really close best friends. Before we got there. Obviously, like, while I was there, I gained buddies, but it took like 4 to 6 months of me finally, like, building a relationship with somebody, and, like, now he's my best friend. But it was just me hanging back and observing everything around me, and I think that's what it helped me out for now who I am today.
That's awesome. And you had mentioned like your priorities ended up changing once you met your girl and got married. Your focus became on the family, but then you turned around and said, "I wish I would have potentially stayed in because of how hard it got." What was your transition back like into civilian life?
Yeah, so when I got out, I was like, I wanted to be a police officer. That was my goal. That is why I even kind of went into the military, because I was like, all right, I have 3 years until I can be a police officer. So why don't I just go get some experience in the military? So I was going to school for criminal justice. And, like, I was like, well, let me get a degree first before I, sign up, because I have the GI Bill. Why not use it? Because I feel like if I would have joined the police force, I couldn't really go to school because, I have a full-time job. So I was in the National Guard when I got out, and I did like close to 3 years in the National Guard. So I had to leave, 1 week out of the month, 2 weeks out of the year. And during that time, like, I started, just drinking a lot more, drinking heavily. Me and who currently now is my ex-wife, we got into a lot of arguments, a lot of just, we did not get along. I didn't know her before getting married. So it was just we did not click. And plus, I had a lot of like issues in my own head from just getting out of the military and transitioning to civilian life and going to war and having PTSD. And it was just like a rough 3 years of me drinking, us fighting, and then us finally getting divorced at like I think I was 22, 21, and at that point, that is when I went off the rails, and I was single again. I had money, I had my own apartment, and I just got into a lot of debt. I lost the apartment and just got into a lot more drinking. Had to come back home and sleep on my mom's couch for for like 2 years, just sleeping on my mom's couch. And I worked at like a warehouse. Like that was the only place that would hire me, was a warehouse. And so I was working like 3 hours for 4 days. I was making like $100 a week, which would barely pay my phone bill. And with that $100, I would just go to the bars. I would get drugs, and that was just my goal: waking up and going to get drunk or get high and find the next place where I could do that at. Then come home and just do it all over again for like 2 years, just of doing that. For not I would go to the gym like maybe twice a week and just do like basic stuff, but there was nothing that ever came from that, of me like being like a runner or anything of the physical aspect. So that, I would say, like, for the 2 years, you got into a lot of drugs, alcohol. One time, like while I was drunk and high, yeah, I had a weapon, and I'm just clearing it, playing with it, and it goes off and just misses my head. And it hits the roof of the apartment I'm living in. My roommates are there, like on the side, and I'm like hoping they didn't hear that, because I feel like they're gonna come in and kind of like, what are you doing? Talk to me, and kind of like be embarrassed of like, I just almost killed myself on accident. And you would think that would scare me, but it didn't. I just went to go buy like another like fifth of vodka and just started drinking more, and kind of, but it was like, okay, I shouldn't be playing with this anymore. And that was the moments, man, of tough years.
That period of time, and I know it happens for a lot of us, especially following a very traumatic event like a deployment, especially depending upon like with the background in which we grew up. A lot of us had a lot of hard things that went unresolved prior to getting into the military, and then we get thrown into a situation that traumatizes us even further. And what I've learned over the years is that type of behavior that I engaged in, not to that extent, but with the alcohol dependence that grew following my most difficult deployment, was I was avoiding a lot of stuff, and it took a lot of not willpower but motivation to want to start to address the things. There came a certain turning point in my life. What was the turning point in your life where things started to change?
I met my wife now, who my wife now is someone that deserves like the best man. Like when I met her, I thought I had no chance. Like I'm like, she's too good for me. Like she's way out of my league. I don't deserve her. Like I'm nothing. Like I have nothing. I have nothing. I just like, I think I had maybe like $100 in my account. Like I didn't own a like house. I thought she only was with guys that had like Mercedes Benzes and like nice houses, a boat. I'm like, but I would talk to her, and I had knew who she was, but she had like a relationship, and I was just respectful of that until finally like I got an opening. She wasn't with him no more, and I'm like, let me get up and let me make my case as who I am as a person. And at the time, I wasn't as bad as I was like with the alcohol and the drugs, but I still like dabbled into it a little bit. So I was just kind of trying to be better. Like each day, I was like, man, I just need to do something better because she deserves someone great. And that was a turning point it took for. I just met my wife, and that's when I started getting better. as a man.
Finding that right community, somebody that you ended up developing a tremendous amount of respect and love for. It sounds like really changed your life because you then went on to selflessly give of yourself to help a family member. Would you mind sharing the story about how you helped your mother?
Yes. So she had developed a kidney disease. Just she's not diabetic. She's not overweight. She's just it just kind of like bad luck. So she was getting worse and worse, and then finally, like, she had to get on dialysis. So she was on dialysis for 2 years and just always going to the hospital. Like after dialysis, she would go straight to the hospital because they took too much water out of her, or just stuff wasn't. It's a machine that is killing you, but it's also keeping you alive. So
Gotcha.
she's just really getting sick after dialysis. So each year you have to get on the transplant list, and they actually go over all your vitals, all your info, like your data. Make sure you're actually like trying to be healthy and you're not drinking, you're not like skipping dialysis appointments. So one of the years she was going back to get back on the transplant list, and I had went with her, with my wife and my sister, and she had said, I actually asked the lady, I was like, hey, can I give my mom my kidney? And she's like, yeah, why not? And I was like, my mom told me I couldn't because I had tattoos. And she's like, no, you can have tattoos and give her a kidney. I was like, okay, well, like, what do I got to do? So she gives me this paperwork that I feel I was like thick old thing of paperwork, and I'm like, all right, well, I fill it out and I give it to my mom. I'm like, here's the paperwork, like send it, and she never sent it. Like, uh, I had came home one day. I was living, down the street, and I had just came and I picked something up from my mom's house, and I saw the envelope there, and I was like, let me just send it. And so I send it, and she had came home, and she's like, "Where's the envelope?" I was like, "I send it," and she just started crying because it's something that she didn't want to do because obviously I'm her son. When you take a kidney out of you, you're kind of putting yourself in a more vulnerable position because like now I only have one. Like with others, like if something goes wrong with one, they have another one as a backup. So
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is the only option unless you want to die. This is it. Like if you people will die waiting for a kidney on the transplant list. So I was like I want you around, and if you want to be around, like you're gonna have to take it. But still, you have to you have to be a match, and you have to have like all the right, even though you're related and you're related by blood, like there's still you can't be a match. There's still an option where you can't be a match. So I ended up doing everything and ended up being a match. And 3 months after that, I went under the knife, and it was like a quick procedure. There was like a little complication that they had on me, but overall, like everything went good, and that was the whole process of the me donating my kidneys to my mom.
Man, did that experience change the way that you look at life at all?
Yeah, when I was going into it, I was like, I could die like on the operating table. Like there could be a chance where something goes wrong. People die in surgeries, normal surgeries, just from something going on like wrong. And me, I was never scared of like dying, or I was never scared of death. Like it was just more of like I don't want to die, but like I don't fear it. It's if it happens, I believe God has a plan for me, and if God wants me not here, then that's God's plan. But I feel like he has something for me here, and like that's when I feel like I'm invincible. As long as I'm doing the right things now, like God will always look out for me. So yeah, going into it, it was that's my mom. I have to do it.
How did that change the way? Because now you're living off of one kidney, you're a higher risk because like the kidneys do a tremendous amount of work, and you're like now I'm going to go run 100-mile race. Like that's definitely going to inhibit a bit of the things that you should be able to do from a medical perspective. So is that part of the motivation which drives you to do such crazy things of like I'm going to do whatever it is that is on my mind that is good, or like what's going on in your mind to say, hey, I'm going to go do some of the hardest things now that like I'm a kidney down.
Yeah, right. So when I donated my kidney, I was like, I need to get healthy. Like, I need to get real healthy. So, I started, eating like really, really clean. I even went vegan for like a year and a half just to be like as healthy as I thought I could be, like doing all the right things and, exercising. And I was running. So I was like, man, I got to take care of myself really well. But then I also have like an addictive personality. Like anything that I love and I have passion for, I will attack it with full force, and I will not I will not stop until I get tired of it. And like I'll if I have too much of it, obviously I just like, all right, like now I'll never touch it again, But so that was where I figured. I was like, man, like I just got to get healthy, and then so when I get healthy, I go overboard, like going vegan, going too overboard, and then I kind of I scale back. I'm like, okay, I can have like a little meat here and there, and then I had got COVID in 2022. So it was like after like everybody had gotten it. It was like 2 or 3 years later, and I was so sick, like I thought I was gonna die. Like I was like, this is how I go. COVID, I was like, I survived Afghanistan, but COVID's taking me out. So one more day would have passed, I would have went to the hospital, but one day passed and I started feeling a little bit better. I was like, okay, like, just take it day by day. And after like I felt better, I was like, I have to do something extreme now. Like I have to do something crazy because like I was doing so good, I was doing great, and like now like all my fitness is gone because I was like out for like 2 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, man, like what could I do? And I was like, I've always wanted to run a marathon. Like I always wanted to run a marathon, and I was like, man, maybe this is the time. And yeah, so I saw that the Long Beach Marathon was 12 weeks away, and so I was like, okay, I got 12 weeks. Let me do this. So I just Google how to run a 4 hour marathon, and I get a template, and I'm just like following the template from Google, and I ended up running like a 3:26 at my first marathon.
What the hell, man? Pardon my language, but like, it sounds like you're suffering from what my wife and I like to call the too much gene, where like,
Yeah,
we find something that we love and we just go at it full force, right? Like, and I think that that's a thing with long distance runners. Anybody that is like overly accomplished in an area of life or multiple areas of life is like we find something and we're just like, well, now I'm going to try to be the best at it, but. Frick, man, a 3:26 for your first marathon?
yeah. From
What are
Google,
you doing? What are you doing to do that?
man, I was just running really fast every day. I had no idea how to run. Like, I mean, we ran in the military, but it was really, really slow, right? So, you're just running with your squad, so you're not running that fast. So I would just run fast every day, like 7 miles, 7 to 8 miles. I would run every day, and then on the weekends, I would do like the long run, which would be like 14, 15, 16, and the thing I ended at like 20 miles. So I had to wake up at 2 a.m. Because I worked in San Diego, and San Diego is about an hour and a half away from me, and I had to be at the yard at 6:30 a.m. So imagine waking up at 2 a.m., doing my run, and then also working out and leaving at 4 a.m. from my house so I could go to San Diego and go to work. And I was digging holes like all day. That was my job, was digging holes. But it was just I was like, I'm dedicated. I'm gonna do this marathon, and I got 12 weeks, so I got to do what I got to do.
That's incredible. You got to send me the Google plan. I'm finishing up 2 marathons this year. I'm
Yeah,
determined. I'm determined to break 5 hours. I'm on track to do that, but I can't imagine. I mean, at 40 years old, last year weighing 240. Now I'm down to 180, but I still can't imagine breaking 4 hours, let alone
you
doing
got
it.
it. You
Let
got it,
alone doing a
brother.
3:26. So, do you feel like you have any limitations because of your kidney donation?
I mean, now after running 100 miles, like I don't think so. I think that anything is possible for people with one kidney. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to tell everybody with one kidney. We're all different. Our bodies are different. I feel like my body is like really strong. I got an iron gut from the age of 18 to 34 years old. I've always kind of been doing like hard stuff, even when I was doing drugs. Like I'm doing hard stuff like on my body.
Yeah,
Like my body is freaking getting put through torture, like through alcohol, drugs, and then now through physical endurance. So I have high capacity for enduring, is like what I like to call it, because I feel like I'm an endurance athlete. I endure, and I don't think there's any limit. Like if I wanted to climb Mount Everest, like I feel like I could do it. I just got to train, give a good training plan, and climb Mount Everest.
for sure, for sure. There's a saying that I've heard many times surrounding ultra runners is they're generally running from something. Do you feel like you're still running from something, or do you feel like you're running for something? Because that had to shift in my mind. Like for a long time, I was running from a place of pain, and now I'm running to a place of inspiration.
Yeah, like I feel like I'm running away from that loser I was. The guy that was sleeping on my mom's couch, the guy that was working and making $100 a week, and all he wanted to do was get drunk, and all he wanted to do was find some cocaine and do it by himself in his room, and just be alone, providing nothing and serving nothing, serving nobody. Um, so I feel like when I'm doing these races, like I'm running away from that guy and trying to become another someone new. Because throughout the day, even still, like I get tendencies of like that attractive lifestyle of feeling high and still like feeling drunk and in that moment. So like it's still in me. I feel like there's a part of me that still feels like that, but I think more and more like it gets smaller and smaller, and the tendencies that I feel like of the attractiveness go away more the more I do these things.
That's amazing, and I'm glad that it's going towards a healing journey for you. It's so difficult to overcome those desires. I mean, it's taken me many years that those are no longer the things that I desire, but it's a part of who I was to then shape up who I want to be at an older age, and it's all part of this journey, right? Like you had mentioned, you don't want to tell somebody with one kidney what they're capable of because we're all different. Same thing with addictions. Like we're all coming from a different background, a different place in heading towards a different journey. But it sounds like yours is one of continuing to push forward towards something that you want to be good.
Yeah. So now, I feel, through this, like that chapter of my life is, I feel like it's over. And now I'm running more to inspire others and, the people around me, building a community like around me, for my family, my friends, of people chasing their own greatness. One of my best friends who I've known since I was 5 years old, like I got him to run his first marathon. I got him to start like, you know, pushing himself more. Like he was always in the gym, but now he's like, gym is different than running, bro. Like it's a whole different game. Like it's a whole different mental strength. So, now he's signed up for, after he went to Leadville with me. He's like, man, I want to do a 50-mile race. He's doing a 50-mile ultra marathon in November, and I'm coaching him through that. I'm helping him through that, setting him his plan, and like I'm gonna be there with you. We're gonna get this done. And like my wife, she did her first half marathon, and just getting people around me to just do, like, they don't have to run 100-mile races, man, but they can do like a tiny fraction of that. Like my wife, half marathon, my buddy doing a 50-mile race, and my cousin, he's starting to run. It's just and my family, like my cousin too. Like I'm bringing him with me to these races to document and be a part of the process that it takes to do these things. And I mean, just, yeah, now I just want to inspire others, and build that community of people that are chasing their own greatness.
That's awesome. And let's talk about the significant physical accomplishment that you've endured over these last only 2 years. 2 years ago was your first marathon. 2023, you decided to embark upon three 100-mile races starting in 2023. And I know two of them, I mean, every one of them is hard, but the Leadville is said to be one of the most difficult because it's also run at elevation. I think it's up to like 12,000 feet throughout the race. I don't even know how much elevation gain you're doing because you're going over this one massive mountain twice, and you're not able to encounter your crew during that. Sure, there's a rest area, but you're racing a clock and you're also racing the terrain. What was running the Leadville 100 like for you? What was that experience like?
Leadville 100, man, is a race that since my first marathon I did, I was like, I want to run the Leadville 100, and it was because of Nick Bear. I don't know if you know who Nick Bear is.
Yeah. He
But
does. He talks about being a hybrid athlete, run far, lift heavy.
yeah, so he did the Leadville 100 and he made a YouTube video about it, and I was like, man, like I would watch that video like back to back, like over and over, and it inspired me to run it. So I didn't like submit my name into the lottery. I was just like, I want to run it one day. But I'm like, well, let me first dabble in the hundreds. So I ran a couple hundreds, and then in 2023, I got to pace my buddy in Leadville. So he completed Leadville, and I was there pacing him, and so that was great. So the whole Leadville 100 was like a surreal experience. Like I'm like, this is where like the big names are. Like David Goggins been here, Courtney Delwater, like all like the professional athletes come here to race. So I was just among them, and I'm standing at the start line, and I'm like surrounded by like people that I just follow on social media that are like have millions of followers, hundreds of thousands, and I'm like, this is where I belong. Like I belong here. Because I was born to do this. And we take off, and I just feel really good. I'm like, freaking adrenaline's going. Like, I had told my crew, like, we have a set time. Like, I want to get it done in 25 hours. That was my goal. But we're gonna go based on how I feel. Like, if I'm not feeling good, then we're just gonna run. We're gonna run our race, but I'll know the first 3 miles of this race how my day's gonna go. So the first 3 miles going, I'm freaking feeling great. I think I took off like at a 7-minute pace, and I was like, okay, I gotta slow down. Like this is too fast. And I start slow down, and I think me and a guy like kind of latch onto each other, and we're doing like 8:30s, 8:40s, and I'm like, I feel good. Like we can hold on to this. So I'm holding on. I'm feeling good throughout the day, and I'm not really even feeling the altitude like too much. I'm like, it's a little tough, but I'm not feeling it. And so I get to May Queen, which is the first aid station, mile 13, and my crew like gets an alert. They're like, he's already a May Queen. Like he's freaking moving. He's moving fast. So we got to be ready for him, because I was going to meet them at Outward Bound, which was the next aid station, and that was mile 23. So mile 23, I get in there, and they're like, bro, you are freaking flying. Like, do you want to slow down? I was like, I feel good, man. Like, let's keep moving. I get there. I eat too much food, and I drink too much liquid. And so as I'm leaving Outward Bound, I feel horrible. Like, I have to kind of just start walking. I'm like, man, I got to let my food digest. So I started just kind of like walking. I'm like walking along. I'm walking too much, and I'm kind of like jogging. I'm like, my stomach's hurting. Like it just like I ate too much. I get to the next aid station, and I have a Coke. I get some ramen. I'm like, I'm back alive. I feel good. Like I take off, and the next big aid station is Twin Lakes, and that's mile 40, 42. So I get there, and I'm tired. I'm like, I just ran 42 miles, and I'm in altitude, so I'm like, I'm tired, and I have to climb a freaking mountain right now. Like, I gotta climb a mountain twice. Like, I have to climb it and then come back again and another time. So I'm like, man, I'm in trouble. But I banked a lot of time, from moving so fast. So I wasn't chasing any cutoffs, just because I was like 2 hours ahead of them. So I was like, I banked the time, and now I can just take my time on Hope Pass. I don't have to worry about anything. So I get up to Hope Pass and I'm just like, wow, like I'm here. Like this is where, Hope Pass is where they like people say like Hope Pass is it. Like this is like I didn't train to do the first half of Leadville. I trained to become on Hope Pass. Oh, as I'm there, I'm like, this is everything. This is why we came. Is for this moment right here. I'm there. I go back down in a wind field that was mile 50, and the hardest part of Hope Pass is coming back up from Winfield. So it's a lot more steep, and you're 50 miles deep into the race. So at this time, like, you still have to fill up all your stuff. So I have no crew. I'm doing everything myself. I'm changing my socks. I'm just like, I want to like hang out here for like a while, bro. Like I want to just hang out. I don't want to go back up there. I do not want to go back up there. And I'm hanging out. I'm changing my freaking socks, and I'm like, I drink a Coke, and I'm like, all right, let's go. So I go. I move with one of the guys. Me and him were kind of pacing each other. So we're following each other. I'm tired, and now the climb starts, and I'm just like moving. I'm looking up, and I just see like all the switchbacks where people are moving. They just look like tiny little ants, and like, dang, like how am I gonna get up there? Like this is freaking hard. Like I couldn't run because it was just a lot of steep hill. So I'm just walking and walking. I'm taking like a break every 5 minutes and just trying to catch my breath. Man, there was a lot of hard moments, but that was like one of the hardest moments of just trying to go back up there and getting back to Hope Pass and getting on the top. And I get up there and I'm like, I don't know how I did it, but we're here. And so like now you kind of like cruise down, and I'm like, all right, I just got to get to Twin Lakes. So I get to Twin Lakes and I'm beat. I am tired. I'm sleepy. And now I get my pacers though. So now I get, someone there with me that I know, and, he's there to support me, and I just got to let him take over. So it's my buddy who I train with out here, and he's a dog. He does 100-mile races. He's done Badwater. He's someone that is perfect for me to be a part of right there at that moment. So we're going, and I'm just like, I want to walk. Like, that is it. Like, I don't want to run anymore. I'm done. Like, I want to walk. But he's like, all right, man, let's start running. 5 minutes on, 1 minute off. 5 minutes on, 1 minute off. I'm moving. And I was like, dude, can we do like 5 minute walk and 1 minute run? And he's like, no, like, let's do this. Like, I want to still get 25 hours. Like, that was my goal. So he's trying to get me to that goal in 25 hours. And, we get to the next aid station, which is Outward Bound, and we switch out pacers. Now I got my buddy, Daniel Flores, who I went to Leadville with the year before, and then I paced him. So now he's doing it with me this year. And he's doing the same segment I did with him. So it was cool, like, him to be there, like, in the exact moment, because he knows how I feel. You know how I feel when we get to this part right here.
For sure.
So, man, it was anytime I would try to start running, I would just start coughing and dry heaving, and I couldn't run anymore. I'm like, bro, like, I really wish I could run, but anytime I run, I just start coughing. And like, if I want to finish this race, like, and not get dropped, not DNF because of me pushing myself to this limit, I just want to be smart about this. So maybe we're going to have to walk this last 26 miles. And he's like, all right, man, like, I'm listening to you. So I'm just walking, and, I get to my next aid station, and I'm done. Like, I go there and I start feeling sorry for myself, and I'm throwing myself like a pity party of like sitting on the chair, and I'm just like not hungry, I'm not thirsty, I don't want anything. I had 13 miles to go, the last 13 miles, and my buddy, who's my best friend, that I grew up with, it's his turn. And I'm just like, bro, like, I can't run. Like, we're just going to be walking these last 13 miles. And, so he's kind of helping me going through it, and I'm like walking, and like my eyes are closed. Like, I'm just like sleeping, trying to catch sleep while I'm walking. But all I had to do was walk. And if I could keep moving forward, I knew I was going to finish the race. But I knew I wasn't going to hit my goal of 25 hours. So it kind of hurt me a little bit because I was so ahead of the pace of me. Like I was when I got to Winfield, I was like on track to get 22 hours, finish in
Wow.
22 hours. So that's how fast I was moving. But the altitude just hit me of like getting like sick and can't breathe that well. I had stomach issues. I had to use the restroom, and I just didn't want to eat anymore. And finally, like I think we had 3 miles left, and I'm telling my buddy, I'm like, bro, like I just want this to be over. Like, I just want to go home. And yeah, he's like, yeah, we're almost there. And then I get to the finish line, and I see my family there. I see all my, all the people that are there with me, and I'm just like, now I can run. I get that second that the energy coming in, and I'm like, I feel good now. Like I'm finishing. And man, it was incredible because I mean this was something I manifested for 2 years of going to Leadville, and I was like, I'm going, I'm going, I'm going. I just don't know when, but I'm gonna be there. And I was there, and it was over. And so it was a surreal experience, and it just now that it feels like so long ago, but it hasn't even been a month.
I know. I was gonna say, man. That's incredible. It was awesome this weekend. We were watching one of our favorite YouTube channels that we watch most weekends, a couple of travel vloggers, and they happened to do the Leadville 100 as well. And when we were at the end of the video, seeing you cross the finish line, my wife jumps up. She goes, "That's Manny. That's who we're going to talk to this week. Oh my gosh. Like, I'm so glad that we got to see him and we got to see your crew." And
Mm.
the idea of running for me has always been kind of like this therapeutic experience where I go out. But as we're sitting there inspiring people, I'm currently training my wife to be a runner. She just finished her first 10K run in preparation for other distances next year. And it's a beautiful thing when the running community becomes your community. And so, would you mind talking about your community that you've built to support you through those 3 races?
So for like all my hundreds, I've usually had my best friend and my wife, and I have a camera guy, like my videographer, which was another friend of mine, but he actually couldn't go this year because he had to film another athlete that asked him before I could. So I was like, all right, man, go ahead. It's fine. Like, I'll get my cousin now because he's a videographer. And I was like, I would love for him to be a part of this. So, and my wife, I wanted her to be there the entire time. And my cousin, the videographer, and my best friend. And then he brought his girlfriend to someone to help out and someone to be there for him. And just, I wanted someone also that never even heard of ultra marathons, never seen ultra marathons. So that was her. And then I had my buddy Danny, who was the crew chief at Saddle to Surf, the 100-mile race I did in September. And I had him be the crew chief for this one and just be in charge of logistics and he's a really smart dude. So I'm like, can you just like take over? And so he did. He did a great job. And then I had Daniel Flores, who was my pacer, who was the guy I did Leadville with the year before. And he's just a dog. He's actually doing Moab 240 next month. And so he's just, he's crazy. And then I had my training partner who I go out on all my long runs with, which was Joe. He owns a running shoe store, Run Republic, and down the street in Walnut. He's also the race director for Saddle to Surf. He's a board member for the 100-mile club, so he's a beast. And then I had a buddy, Cody, who lived in Buffalo, but he's like, bro, I would love to be a part of this race. Man, I just want to be there. I support whatever you need. I'll be there. I was like, yeah, man, like, come on down. Like, the more the merrier, brother. Like, and Leadville is a place where, like, if you get the opportunity to go, even just be a support crew, like, you need to take it. What you see there is just so inspiring from everybody. You'll see a guy, that doesn't have any legs doing the 100-mile ultra. Like, I got no excuse, guys. Like,
Right. Saw that guy too.
and then anybody, the spectators could also see, like, I have no excuse. Why can't I run 2 miles? This guy's about to run the Leadville 100 with no legs. And that was my crew right there of just people that are helping me achieve a dream of mine that I have. And I could the only way I could repay them is do the same thing for them whenever they if they ever do a race.
I think that's it right there, man. You just said you have a group of people that are supporting you to accomplish something good. And then that turns around and motivates you to do more good. It motivates you to go crew them, to answer the phone when they call. And I think that that's something that serves as a great illustration on how we can just treat people in our lives, how we can evaluate our own community around us, because so many people, when we start talking about these crazy dreams like running 100 miles, or I approach my wife with a challenge, and the initial reaction, of course, can always be, oh, that's crazy, like, but she then turns around and she supports the mission. Unfortunately, there's more people out there that will sit there and tell you all the reasons you can't do something, that it'll get in your head that you'll say, this is why I can't accomplish this hard thing. When we think about, the veteran community, the running community, people going to school, right? Like you even said earlier in this interview, I'm not a school person. I'm not a person that does this, but you're a person that knows how to show up. You know how to surround yourself with good people to accomplish some of the most difficult things that life has to offer. So what strategies do you use to overcome some of these most mentally tough challenges? Because whether it's running up that hill, chasing those little ants, not knowing how it's going to happen, to getting a 2-year degree, a 4-year degree, a trades degree, or just waking up in the morning, what mental strategy are you using to accomplish those things that seem out of reach?
So for me, when I say I'm going to do something, I got to do it. I am committed. Whenever those words leave my mouth of I want to do this, I have to be fully committed before I even say it out loud, and before I ever tell anybody. I tell somebody, and I'm like, okay, now I have to do it because I already opened my mouth. So now I'm on the mountain. I'm in a tough place, and I'm like, well, I can't quit, bro, because I already told everybody I'm doing this, and I'm a man of my word, and I will keep my word to everybody that if I'm say I'm going to be there, I'm going to be there. I'm going to show up. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it, and there's nothing that can stop me unless I am physically like injured or I'm on the brink of death. But nothing else. I'm not going to quit because it's hard. I'm not going to quit because it's tough or I want to go home. Like I'm not. And when I wake up in the morning, I don't need an alarm clock. I don't. I am already awake at 3:59, 3:55 a.m. And at 4 a.m. I'm waking up, I'm making whatever I need to make, a drink, and then I'm stepping out of the door and I'm going for my run, I'm going for a lift, I'm working out, and that is a commitment I made to myself because it is a requirement. But if I make a goal, I'm required to do this training. So now the training is done. I did the training I was supposed to do. I didn't miss any days. I showed up, and now race day is just me showing everybody all the work I put in.
That's awesome, man. Being a man of your word, saying that you're going to show up, and I hope that you continue to tell yourself that you're going to do hard things, because I mean, according to your Instagram, your 100-mile journeys are over. Um, According to this interview, a little bit, you said like you feel like that's your past. You have a tattoo to culminate your 300 milers. I have a thought that you're probably going to, look at the Moab 240 one day and go, I can win that. And I could be like, I talked to that man before he even knew that he was going to sign up. But I know that there's still a lot of people out there that hear a story like yours and go, I'm never going to be able to accomplish that. They hear a story like mine, they go, I'm never going to be able to do the things that they do. And it becomes this feeder of negative self-talk. And unfortunately, this negative self-talk and this negative perception seeps into who we are, to the point where, we have ongoing struggles within the veteran first responder community of a rising suicide rate. Do you have a message of hope for those that are currently going through their own battle?
Man, I know how tough it is, and I know how hard it is to get help. Not because there's no help, it's just that seeking help, we think of it as a weakness, or we have a problem with ourselves. And nobody wants to have a problem, right? We don't want problems, we don't want issues. So I know how hard it is to seek help because I always thought of it as like I'm a weak individual. I never went to the VA. Like I always told everyone, I'm fine, I'm fine. So, I mean, if I could just tell myself, like, go to the VA, talk to somebody, get some help, or find veterans like yourself that have been through that already, like myself and you, and finding the community of people and always starting off with like a physical activity. Wake up in the morning and do something physical, whether it is going for a run, going for a bike ride, going on a walk. Like, just make that a habit, and from there, I mean, you will just keep building and building. You'll want to see how much farther you can go. Like, I walked 1 mile yesterday. I can walk 2 miles today. So, I mean, starting off with something physical, getting help at the VA, and you're not alone, man. You think your story's unique. It's like, bro, like we all have the same exact story of we how we feel when we get out of the military. I can tell you so many veterans that have that deployed with me, and we all have the same story of when we got out, we got into alcohol or we got into drugs, we got divorced, and we probably had a couple close calls of like suicide attempts or thinking about it. And now it takes us some time, like a couple years, to get help, go get help. And then I've gotten help from the VA, and now I'm getting, I go to the VA. I was at the VA like last month, seeking help and talking to people. And if you're able to wake up, man, that's a blessing already. That you already blessed, and especially wake up in the United States, man. Like, we've been to third world countries where you got to worry about walking outside your door and stepping on a bomb. So having some gratitude of just being alive, and now do something with your body. And if you can serve others, man, that's the best feeling in the world. Like, chasing that feeling, like, you feel like it's selfish, but you're like, man, I just want to like help people, like, and help them like achieve something great.
Well, Manny, one, you've brought new life to your mother. You've shown up for your wife and your family and your crew. Where can people find you, connect with you, and hopefully learn how to live a life of service?
Yeah. So my Instagram is Mannie Zubia, and then I need to get better, but I do have a YouTube channel, and that's where I post long form videos. I have a couple documentaries on there of my 100-mile races. We are editing right now the Leadville 100 race, and still kind of trying to make that one a really good video. So that one will come out soon. But I have like a couple of videos of me going the road to Leadville, and long form content. So on YouTube, it's the same thing, Mannie Zubia, and usually those two, man. And if you just want to talk to me, get my phone number. I will talk to you. We'll talk. We'll FaceTime each other. I will go out to you, and if you live nearby, we'll go for a run. We'll go for a hike, and I'm as real as it gets, man. Like, I'm not. I don't play anything, or I don't look for any type of anything from anybody. And if I'm doing something for you, I would never expect anything in return. I'm just doing things out of the kindness of my heart. I'm just trying to be there for you.
Well, that's really awesome. Again, thank you for saying yes to our request of coming on the 1 Mile, One Veteran podcast. I've really enjoyed chatting with you, Manny.
Thank you so much for having me, brother. It was a great listen, man. And I need to like interview you, because I would love to like know your whole story too, man. Like, and if I maybe I should start a podcast and like interview people, man. But it's yeah, I would love to get to know you, brother.
Oh, please. We will definitely stay in touch. And if you do ever need any assistance in how to get one of these started, reach out to us. My wife is absolutely amazing, former television producer, and now she does this. But yeah, I loved having you here. And a reminder for our listeners, please remember you can catch the 1 Mile, One Veteran podcast on Wreaths Across America Radio, available on platforms like iHeartRadio, Odyssey, and the TuneIn app.